Hello and welcome to iCry2, where we get down to the root of why men cry, or some cases, some instances, why they hold back the emotions. It's not about a weakness, but it's about triumph over adversity. And today I have with me in our studio, Nino Lyons. How are you?
Hi, Tasha Benton. How are you?
I'm good.
Good,
I'm good.
good.
I didn't know that you were an around town hero. I'm not from Brevard County, but as I was doing my research, I just found out there were so many marvelous things about you.
Thank you.
Not only were you a Hall of Famer, you're a mentor, wonderful father, husband,
Thank you.
community leader. I also read that you held the position of NAACP
Vice
Vice
President at one
President.
point. I did.
Yes.
I did.
Oh,
Yes.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And before we get started, I want to talk about an article that I read.
Okay.
It was by Robert Burnt. He states that society has instilled in men the notion that real men don't show emotions. But I say, is society right? We know that men are strong and courageous,
Okay.
just as it's written in Joshua 1:9 and Deuteronomy 31:6. In creating this podcast, I just wanted to show those emotional journeys that men take. There's an old wise tale or just that old cliche that men are not supposed to show their emotions. They say that it shows weakness, but Ed, God holds tears. He looks at weakness as a sign of strength. And so I just want to open it up to your emotional journey, your story. I want you to be able to share your story, your point of view, not the media, not what someone thinks, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, personally, I think a man showing emotion is a good thing. When it comes to the tears, there will be times when you need to shed them. Sometimes maybe that's not in front of the people that you want to stand strongest for, because I know in my case, that's what I did. I had tears, I had hurts, I had heartaches, but I could never let my mother or my children or my wife see me to the point it seems like I was just giving up or hopeless, because I had to be the strength for them, even though I was going through some of the worst times of my life. Because your children piggyback off you in long terms in life. And if they see you give up, and even though you may have come through something, but if they saw the pattern of you gave up, but you lucked out, what would they think in the long term? I never want my kids or kids in my community to feel like he was giving up. So I never gave up.
Absolutely. I want to read an article, and it's just a brief excerpt. It says, over the course of a decade, Nino Lyons appeared before the United States District Court for the Middle District of Florida at least 4 times. In 2001, a jury convicted Lyons of crimes carrying a mandatory minimum sentence of life in federal prison. In 2003, Honorable Gregory Presnell ordered Lyons to be released on bail, only to be reversed by the 11th Circuit. A year later, 2004, Judge Presnell again ordered Lyons' release, and at this time, there was no appeal. Finally, 2010, Judge Presnell took the extraordinary step of getting Lyons' petition for certification of actual innocence.
Correct.
Now, that decision that Presnell ordered, it says that it is nearly unprecedented. Federal courts rarely grant certifications of innocence.
Correct.
At all. What do you have to say?
Well, in my particular case, because of affidavits that were eventually signed, a lot of investigations that took place, it found and proved that everything against me was a complete lie. It was complete fabrication. There were witnesses that had never seen me in their lifetime that actually testified that we dealt hand to hand with drugs, but they had never met me. There were witnesses that there were investigative reports hidden that these witnesses had been questioned years before and showed my photograph. They couldn't identify me because They didn't know me. They had no cause to know me other than the fact that, hey, that's the guy that owns the nightclubs. That's the guy that
Right.
owns the clothing stores. Well, that's the basketball player. We know of him, but I don't know him. A lot of these guys had been in prison for years for their crimes. And I guess the only way they figured they could get out was to, concoct these stories that,
Right.
yeah, now I know him and we did these things together. But the ironic part about it is, and this is what the government never wants to come out, these guys didn't concoct this story on their own.
Right.
It was with the assistance of agents. Therefore, there was enough evidence of that for the federal courts and the Department of Justice to issue the certificate of actual innocence. There was enough evidence to prove that they had recordings, they had video surveillance, they had things of me all these years doing nothing wrong. But they didn't want that perception to be out. They wanted the perception that a successful black man had to be doing something illegal if he wasn't a pro athlete.
Right, exactly.
I didn't make it to the pros in basketball, but my ancestors made sure I had brilliance of mind to succeed in life. So that was my success. But you still have powers today that do not want the perception out there for young black males that you can succeed without being a rapper, a drug dealer, entertainer, or a basketball, football player.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, I read that you were in there from 2001 to 2003.
3 years, basically.
Yeah. What was 33 months? Or
Yes.
At any time, did you feel like you were going to have to actually serve that entire sentence?
You mean the life sentence that I was facing?
Yes.
I always felt that I would be exonerated. I just didn't know how long it would take. Because my pastor, Dr. Arshawn Ferguson, from day one, he shared with me that God had gave him the vision that I would never go to prison. I told my family, I told my pastor, and he will verify this, I told my lawyers that God showed me that I would be convicted. Even before there was ever a trial scheduled, I knew that I would be convicted, but he also told me that I wouldn't go to prison. Now, how that correlated at the time, I had no idea. And to this day, only by the grace of God, it worked out. But I sat in the same facility for almost 3 years. I never went to a prison. Even after the conviction, I never got an actual life sentence, what the government wanted. But it was remanded back to the trial judge, and he didn't sentence me because there was one witness, for instance, who said we dealt hand to hand in crack cocaine for years, $6 million worth. And they found out that that witness had never seen me a day in his life. And I'll tell you his name. His name is David Mercer. It never goes away from me.
Now, is he in prison right now?
He got out based on lying testimony. And I had never seen David Mercer a day in my life, but he was their key witness against me.
My goodness.
But the FBI agents hid the fact that David Mercer had told them years before. I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah. You know, throughout the ordeal that you had to face, you're right. Pastor Sean, he claimed it, every Sunday.
Wow.
We claim that. He said that you would be like Moses.
Wow.
And, when I think of Moses, I think of him leading people.
Okay.
And I see you. And actually, I told your sister that I saw in a vision that you were leading a group of boys, with your demeanor. You have a strong, it's almost like a quiet storm. That's when I think of you, quiet storm. But I saw you leading a group of boys. I look at Coco as a whole, and I see some of the holes that need to be filled in. And I think that a person of your character would just be the, to want to do that.
Well, Tasha, unfortunately, that's something that I felt like I was put on this earth for. Mm-hmm. And there's always been a blockage from powers that be in the city of Cocoa because of my stances that I've taken for our community, the stances that I've taken for young black males especially. And if I had to do it all over again, yeah, I would. Because the stances I take are the stances for truth and justice. None of what I've done has benefited me personally. It just made me a target. I helped filed the largest federal fair housing lawsuit ever against the city of Cocoa on behalf of elderly black citizens in the area called the core area, which is right behind St. Paul Church and that area. We helped them win $1 million consent decree, okay, years ago, where the government, the city of Cocoa basically, had to go in and rehab every house that was rehabable. And the ones that weren't, they had to tear them down, build a new one at no cost to the resident. And as long as that resident stayed there 5 years, it was free and clear. And the reason we got that done is because the government had been, the city of Cocoa government had been receiving for years money coming in from the federal government based on the demographics of those elderly black citizens, but they were using the money for downtown Cocoa in that marina area. None of it going into the community that it was designated for. So that was one of the starts of the targets on me, okay? Because I was one of, I won't say I was the only one, I'll take that back. I was the black male that stood out, that openly voiced, that spoke up. Second thing, there was years ago something called the Jump Out Boys, which were federal drug task force supposedly to help in our community. And they were going in our neighborhoods, basically harassing, kicking, just belittling any kid from the age of 8 to 18. You know, they could jump out the vans or cars or whatever they were in Cocoa, Rockledge, Titusville, Melbourne, and a kid could be walking home from school or walking from the library, and they would strip search them, make them take their clothes off and the whole nine. Well, I ended up having some kids and family members videotape some of this going on. And I did a presentation, and I got that task force disbanded. Not because I don't like the authority of what's right in our community, but I don't like abusive authority. I don't like corrupt police. And so the police had a dislike for me in that situation. So that was another strike. And there were just, people don't like to see you being successful and standing up for the less fortunate. And the way I was raised, whether I had something or not, I had enough to share with someone else and to help them. And my success in life hasn't been based on me. It's been based on people that I watch, that I learn from. So it's my obligation, at least in my eyes, in my heart. Everything that I've learned, I've got to share it. I've got to give it. You know, I don't have to sell it. I got to give it. And I know because of what I've done in my lifetime, and only because of the good that I've given, good was given back to me by the grace of God with this certificate of actual innocence and my freedom from wrongful incarceration and a life sentence. Because I'll tell you this, and I've told this story at Georgetown Law on a couple of speaking engagements. If I had been on the jury and not know Nino Lyons, I would have convicted Nino Lyons.
Wow. Based on all the information or everything that they had stacked.
Based on everything that was presented, I'm sitting there listening.
My goodness.
And if I didn't know me, I would have said, he's guilty. He's got to be, because our government wouldn't make up stuff.
Right, fabricating. Right.
They wouldn't. And I vividly remember during jury selection, a lady from Satellite Beach area said, y'all might want to excuse me because he's got to be guilty. Yeah.
And you heard her say that? My goodness.
Yeah, he's got to be guilty.
My goodness. You know, the effects, the residual effects with your children and on your wife, how did you feel about that?
I think for me, people wonder, how did you bounce back? Are you okay with what went on? You know, because a lot of people know some of the details.
Right.
They don't know the background. They don't know the deep details. And I'll tell you one of the deep details. My grandmother was the love of my life, okay? My grandmother built such a strong foundation for my family that I called her mama from the time I was a kid. And I love my mama to death, okay? But my grandmother was such an integral part of my life and my entire family. When my grandmother got sick, I ended up getting incarcerated. And my grandmother asked for me every single day. And one of the things that I promised my grandmother in life, that you would never have to come see me in prison or locked up unless it was for defending or protecting my mom, my sisters, my brothers, or family members. Because my grandmother had dealt with so much of the incarceration with my dad, my grandfather, my cousins from corrupt, mind you, corrupt police officials. And however you look at, well, some of the times they put themselves in position. Well, unbeknownst to me at the time, there was some conspiracies I dealt with and found out years later. There was a pattern in my family, against the men in my family, because of standing up against police brutality, against government corruption, things like that. So what I'm leading up to, my grandmother died while I was in Seminole County Jail. I was told that I was being processed to go to the funeral. I was taken up front to get dressed to go to the funeral. And the guards laughed at me. You won't be going out of here today. 5 minutes before I was told I was going to be released to go to the funeral, they turned me around and walked me back to the jail cell, and they were laughing the entire time.
My goodness.
They were laughing from the time they took me out to the time they brought me back.
Well, what was the final decision? Why did they end up doing that?
It was just to play on my emotions. So they didn't let me go to my grandmother's funeral. Yeah. So people don't even know a lot of the backstory. Yeah. Okay. And there are other things that took place that are so deep, people would be like, you gotta be kidding. Like I'm a poet, all right? Because I used to write letters for some of the guys that were incarcerated and write poems for them. They came and did a shakedown in our cell one time, and the guards ripped up over 1,000 of my poems for no reason. And there were over 1,000 poems that I had written while over that almost 3 year period.
That's enough to just cause someone to, give up then.
Yeah.
No, but it amazes me the fact that, you're not only tall in stature, but your character is tall in stature. When I see you, I've never seen a frown on your face. I'm pretty sure there's times what kept you going through all of that?
Tasha, what kept me going was, I know for a fact that I had to be strong for my kids. I knew I had a wife that under every circumstance, she didn't care what. She stood by me, was going to stand by me. So I had to prove to her, you didn't make a bad choice. You made the right choice, okay? Amazing. I know she knew that, but I had to show her that even once I came out, that everything you did was for the greater good. I had to be strong because I knew my son needed me, my daughters needed me, but more importantly, I needed to show every young black boy in this community, keep your head up, stand strong. You can be successful in life. Even when the odds are against you, even when the odds stand on your head, you still can bounce back up.
When your wife was at Endeavor Elementary, they gave her such a hard time. They gave her a hard time in the district as well. When she left Endeavor Elementary, the morale plummeted. And I was there at the time, and we'll put it this way, I did not stay because the morale was so low, because they loved her, the community loved her. And just to see the grace that she had on her after all that was going on with you, she still carried a grace. And that's a part of Nino Lyons. I'm pretty sure you instilled that in her. You guys have been together for a very long time.
The 70s.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's one of the most disappointing things that going through this was for her to have to hurt, for her to lose her position because she was told point blank, if you separate yourself from him, your career will continue ascending, because she was the youngest black female principal in Brevard County.
I'm pretty sure I think there was 2 or 3.
Yeah.
She was one of the only ones. And I'm telling you, I went there because my first year of teaching was awful. And so they told me to call her. I called her. She brought me in, and, the rest is history. Right. She's the reason why I'm still here in Brevard County.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and you said that you feel bad that it may have hurt her, but you know what? She found comedy in everything. Yeah. She found a reason to smile.
Yeah, she did, because she's strong, Tasha. However, again, I told you there's so many stories involved in this, in my case, in my background. That's why one of my key things is I've got some stories to tell.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
My wife, even though they told her if she stepped away, she could continue ascending, and she refused. Not only did they move her to the district, they cut her salary, $20,000 per year. Okay. And then they moved her and would not allow her to apply or
For those leadership
for
positions.
those leaders. Many of the people that were in leadership positions, she had helped gotten there.
That's right.
And to see them hamstring her career because of something that I had been completely exonerated of, but because she took a stance and said, I don't care what you all say. I believe in my husband. I know what we did. I know what he did. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing illegal, and I'm not going to walk away from it. Because, for instance, at Endeavor, kids were coming to school hungry, and she used to say they can't learn. So when she says, I need $2,000 to start a breakfast program, I did it. We did it. The grade levels, kids got better. And when you do things like that, like I said earlier, Tasha, the universe, God, the ancestors protect you in the long run. Absolutely. So that's why I feel like I'm protected, because all I've ever done was try to be good to my people, to everyone in general. But, you always have someone that, regardless of what you do,
they don't want to see it.
They don't want to see it. But, and all that led back to the certificate of actual innocence. I said that to say this. Even though the certificate of actual innocence is there, even to this day, sometimes if I have to fill out a document or whatever, that stuff comes up. Wait a minute. I'm a voter. I have my own business. I do contracts all over the state. And sometimes when you have to get a security clearance to go into a school or whatever, you can't get clear. No. You check this. There's a whole story. Wow. This is you? We're sorry. But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a need for me to have to do an exhaustive approval that I'm innocent 20 years later, especially when you've gotten one of few in history issued
they said that
proof
was
of actual innocence.
Unheard of.
Yeah, but I'm happiest about that more for my family than me, because I knew of my innocence from the get-go. My lawyers were ecstatic about it because it's one of the few in history, but I knew me. So that piece of paper, and I think when they did the newspaper article, I held it up, I said, it's a piece of paper to me. It doesn't.
And I have that article.
And they said, but it clears the way for you to sue them now. You can get money and blah, blah. And it did. But again, money doesn't take back the pain and heartache, not for me, but for my kids, for my mom, my sisters and brothers, my wife. My grandmother died while I was in there. And I know, even though there's some jealousy, there's some people in the community that were truly hurt, you know, and that were.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, so. And that's why I try to do everything I can now for the people that stood by me, to show them you didn't make a bad choice.
Right. And you know what? I look at the fact that although your wife had to part from Endeavor Elementary, she's there now as Dr. Lyons and in a better position, which is amazing.
Well, believe it or not, Tasha, she's not at Endeavor. She's totally retired now.
She
got the doctorates, and she's, she's going to do something again. She's talking about opening a school, or whatever, but I don't. She goes and volunteers here and there with Pam Hooks and things like that. But she's not at Endeavor now.
Yeah. Article, it says mentor, activist, exoneree, legend. Why can't Nino get a basketball coaching job in Brevard?
Wow. Yeah.
Is that, tell me about that. And because I know you are coaching boys right now.
Right.
But is that AAW?
No. I'm actually coaching as assistant coach at Holy Trinity down in Melbourne.
I love that.
Okay, which is a private institution. However, I still have been unable to get a coaching job in the Brevard County public school system. I can tell you want me to rattle them off? I applied over the years, my alma mater, where I had all the records at, where my jersey was retired at once upon a time, and now it's back in rotation some years ago. Rockledge High, 3 times. Merritt Island High, Vieira, Palm Bay, Cocoa, okay?
Hometown hero basketball player.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Coco just a few months ago, okay? And I'm just naming some. There were some others, okay? There was in that article, it may list some of the schools, but I'm just telling you the ones that were like a priority to me,
Right.
okay? Because Coco and Rockledge, that's where I need to be.
Right.
Because our kids need to see success that walk right out of the streets where they're walking right now. Right. I grew up in the projects in Cocoa, but I went to Kennedy in Rockledge. My best friends basically went to Cocoa High School. So Cocoa and Rockledge
they're right there.
They're right there. Yeah. Okay. So those are like my priority projects. And when I wasn't given the opportunity to coach at Cocoa this year as a head coach, but I was offered the opportunity to coach head coach of the girls. And I decided, let me think about it. 24 hours, talk to my wife and daughter. And I thought about it and talked to them. And I basically told them no, because God put me here for a different reason. And that reason is I can coach anybody.
Right.
I can take anybody to a state. But God put me here to use this tool to mentor young boys to be successful young men. Because I know I can take a young man and help him become successful by talking about basketball, but relaying it in a business manner. And I can help him become a videographer. I can help him become a painter.
That's a transfer knowledge.
That's it. And I've spoken about this before, and he often tells this story. There's a young man in this community that's doing great things. He was a kid who I had in my camp, basketball camp, every year, fed them. He couldn't play a lick of basketball, but I would bring him back and say, this is what you need to do, this, this, this. And he tells that story. He was like, I don't know why he even had me there, because I wasn't an athlete, wasn't a ball player. But I saw in him a drive that he was going to make a difference. His name is Thomas Cole, Emma Jewell Charter Academy.
That's right. He's the principal there.
The founder and principal.
Isn't that something? Sowing seed, and that's what he's doing to those boys and girls in the community. Right. Sowing seed. That's amazing.
And he tells that story. He says, and he calls me Uncle Nino. He says, Uncle Nino, he started me on this journey.
Wow.
You know, I couldn't play a lick of basketball, you know. And when I was going through my ordeal, Thomas Cole, what can I do? What can I do? When I applied for these jobs, Thomas Cole would always write a letter, a reference for me. What do I need to call anybody? So that's why I said earlier, there's a lot of jealousy, but there's some people that genuinely love you, you know, and I know they love me. I know they care. It's just unfortunate that you have some people in our community that they're so blindsided by jealousy that don't realize what I'm trying to do is help your child.
Right. They don't see the big picture.
Yeah. You know, whether it's your son or your daughter, all I want to do is uplift them so that the generations get uplifted.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm nobody special, but
you are indeed special.
But
I have a message from someone that thinks you are special.
Really?
I do.
Okay.
Let's see.
Got me curious.
So you're the oldest of 7, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So this person said that you had no choice but to step up as a father. He's a father. He's a protector. He should be proud of himself because I am. I'm not sure that I would be able to do it, and that you are here, you are present. And he said also, when he thinks about you, he thinks about a book called The Invisible Man. It's by Arthur Ellis, because that character had to endure so much, but the outcome was so magnificent. That was from your son. He said that you
really?
are. Yeah. He said that he doesn't know if he would be able to handle it and have to endure what you had to endure. I saw a picture on, this was a news article, and after your wife grabbed you, he was the second one right in line. And all you could see is a stream of tears. He was just under you, like you had gone away from the military and you didn't know if you were going to come back or not. You know, your children are just so, they're so amazing. I love Nina, and Nino.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you. Well, they mean the world to me. Bottom line is, you want to protect the people you love, Tasha, and that's something that hurt. That portion will never go away because I was not able to keep them from enduring pain. I was not able to prevent them from having to go through that negativity, finding out years later that they were teased, they were picked on sometime is not a good feeling. But even on top of that, just the fact that I raised them to do the right thing, they only ever saw the right thing, and then for them to have to see their dad, go through this and like, but you always said the world was fair. You always taught us to do the right thing. How can this be happening if the world is fair? If doing the right thing is going to get you there because you've only did the right thing,
I see Danina, she gives back too. She works with children, that comes from you.
Yeah, yes. I mean, and again, the biggest disappointment of all of this is the people that it hurt their hearts more than financially. I won't even tell you what it did, but
Loss.
there was. I mean, I own the plaza up there that they took. I own apartments complex they took. I own, rental houses that all that disappeared. But the money and the finance, that was nothing compared to the hurt that my children, my wife, family members,
your
my
sister,
church,
your sister, your brother, especially Sherry, she's the prayer warrior. And I'm telling you, she was on her face. She was on her face just praying for her brother.
Wow. Yeah. And you find out a lot of backstories later on, and you get some disappointments. Okay, there's some backstories. You get disappointments of people that you thought would be in your corner. Yeah, I mean people that you've done things for, people that you've helped, and not for the sake of, well, I help you, so you got to help me.
Right.
While I was incarcerated, I never asked anybody for anything, but it would have been nice for some of the people that I had helped over the years to at least, hey, let me call and check on his kids. Let me check on his mom. Well, he put a roof on my mother's house, so let me just see if his mom, need a case of water. Let me check on Miss Minnie. So, but by the grace of God.
Exactly.
But
God has his hand on it. And you know what? I think that people go through things. Some people can handle it. And there's a psychologist, Nietzsche. He says only the strong survive.
Yeah.
And this is an example of that. Because I think with this story, with everything that you had to go through, it builds character. And actually, it'll be legendary because you can Google Nino Lyons and there's all kinds of articles, not just the fact of this case, but the fact that you're a mentor, a fact that you are known for the good things that you've done. Because I've seen several articles about that. The fact that you're loved. And I think that this is not just where you are right now is not just the bounce back. Just like that vision I saw. I truly don't know what it means. I shared it some years ago with Sherry, and this is when you were incarcerated. I told her flat out, he's not going to be there. I saw him. I saw him leading a group of men, and I think that's what you're cut out for. That's what you were designed, and it will happen. And the fact that Brevard Public Schools denied you, especially at Cocoa, my goodness, to deny you access when they know the truth, they know they have the stories, they have all this stuff down.
Yeah, they do.
For them to deny. And you know what? They're always, when I say always, they're always looking for coaches. Always. Whether it's Palm Bay, Rockledge, whether it's Cocoa. A lot of times it's for the women's areas, but and to deny you.
Yeah.
you know.
But everything is still good. And again, by the grace of God, I'm good. My family's okay. I try to do what I can for my community and try to share positive information over social media. And because there's so much more that can be told, there's so much more to share. And I got some stories to tell.
I know we got those stories to tell. Is there anything that you want to, before we go, is there anything that you want to say to any of the men or young adults?
I want the men to know it's okay to cry, even if you have to share your tears from within. Okay? A lot of my tears were shared within. A lot of my tears and pain and hurt were not necessarily for myself. It was for the people that I love that did not deserve to have to hurt inside. So men, it's okay to open up with your feelings. Men, it's okay to cry. Men, it's okay to love. And you still can be a strong man. Stay strong.
Amen.